Guys, what is up? Today I am going to embroider some towels. I just have to do two real quick, but I thought I would show you how I do those because I have an older video. I'll link it up here if I can figure out how to do that. That I did it a different way. So I do it a little bit different now, and I think it's a little bit easier. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Either way is fine. And really, there's just one thing about towels that you have to do differently. But first, I have a little show and tell. Can you see one of them right here? How cute is that? I made it an emotional support chicken. As a matter of fact, I made two. So this is Loretta Hen. And then, because I felt like she was kind of big, and the person I'm sending it to might want to take something to the hospital, and this felt a little big for the hospital. So we also have Sissy Space Chick, yeah, Space Chick, Sissy Space Chick. How cute. So yeah, this is what I do at night when I'm watching other people's YouTubes, is I crochet. So I'm going to make them, or I think just Sissy, I'm going to make her a little shirt that matches something that the soon-to-be owner has. I haven't quite worked that out yet, but we'll work on that. Anywho, let's embroider. So when I first started, and what you saw in that previous video, is I used the Durkee Easy Frames and some sticky stabilizer. People don't like to use sticky stabilizer on towels because it can pull your loops out a little bit. I find that if you're careful, it's okay. You could also use just some regular tearaway stabilizer on here and some sticky spray to do it that way. Both are completely acceptable. But what I do now is I use my magnetic hoop. This is just a magnetic hoop from, what are they called? Mighty Hoops. And some regular tearaway stabilizer. Whichever method you use, you do want to make sure that you use tearaway, because you don't want anything left over on the back of your towel. So you don't want to use cutaway stabilizer. And then the only other thing that you do differently on a towel than just any sort of regular embroidery is you've got to use some water-soluble stabilizer. And what that does, again, you know, towels have a nap on them and these loops. And so if you were to just embroider straight onto a towel, those stitches would get buried and be hard to see, and it just doesn't look pretty. So you have to put something on top of it. So this kind of keeps that, it's almost like doing a knockout stitch. So, and that's another option. You could do a knockout stitch where you have sort of a base layer of stitching and then your name goes on top of it. That not only requires more effort, but it just doesn't, I don't think, look as clean and as pretty. But this you can get, well, I probably got this one at Joann, but I'll, RIP Joann. Did you guys hear, side note, did you guys hear that Michaels maybe bought some of the rights to Joann, and maybe now they're going to take on some things? I don't know. I don't know anything about it. But you can probably find this on Amazon too. I'll try to find a link to put down below. But so let me show you how I hoop this. First things first, just like anything else, you need to mark your center point. And I do that just by folding the towel in half. And then I just use a pin to mark it. I usually do my embroidery just right above this band, maybe an inch or so above it. I always check to make sure I'm on the correct side so we can look for that tag, and we are on the correct side. So now that we're marked, we just have to hoop it like normal. My design, it's a small name, but I'm going to use this bigger hoop anyway. So put down your tearaway stabilizer. I'm going to turn it this way just for my purposes here. This piece of stabilizer is a little too big, but that's okay. And then put down your towel. And I kind of, let's see, yeah. This is another good reason to use a bigger hoop than what you need, is because then I don't have to worry too much about fitting it or even centering it all that much. I'm going to get a little bit better here. And with these hoops right here, you can see these two bolts or screws, whatever. Your center point is right there. So I'm going to get as close as I can. I'm going to make sure this top line lines up with my hoop. That'll make sure that I'm nice and straight. And then this guy, you don't have to cut him as big as your hoop, at least I don't, because it only needs to be up here where you're actually embroidering. So I do that, and then you slap this guy down. Now, if you're familiar with mighty hoops, you know that usually when you slap that down, it really slams down. Since your towel is so thick, it's maybe not going to give as much of a grip as normal. So just kind of squeeze it together and make sure that you're nice and steady there. And then we just take it over to the machine. All right, so I got my design pulled up. You're going to make sure that it is rotated because our towel, you know, here's the end of it. The rest of it is hanging down here, so we want it facing that way. So I've got it all set up there. And then I just need to find I do the bottom center and I line it up with this pin. So let's see if I can do this, multitask here. So I've got my little laser pointer. Even if your machine doesn't have a laser pointer, all you do is pull down the needle that it's set on, and that's the same as where the laser pointer is. My other machine, I have a machine, let me see if I can pan over here without making you sick. This machine I have over here does not have a laser pointer, and it's fine. It still works just as fine. Okay, so back to here. Get it centered to our, and then I'm down too far, but I just want to get the center first. And then like I said, I come up about half an inch to an inch. Now I do have to do two, well, hello, didn't mean to do that. Let's try that again. Okay. So we get over to our center, and then I'm gonna come up again, about an inch. I do have to do two of these, so I like them to be the same. So if you really want to get in there and make sure that they're perfect, you can get a ruler. I'm just gonna eyeball it. Let's come up just a hair more. Again, we are water soluble stabilizer is way up here. So we'll do about right there. I can check and make sure that my bottom line is pretty straight, and that looks good. And so now don't forget to pull out your pin. You don't want your machine to hit that, and then we'll stitch it out. One more thing before I start stitching. Remember how I said, you know, these magnets are very strong, but since it's such a thick material, you might not hear that, you know, really satisfying snap. One thing I do to help make sure that nothing goes awry is I pull out this drawer and I rest it on there. Now, if your machine is on a stand like my other one, it's not so much of an issue because you have something there to kind of lay it on, or it lays a little bit better. But anything you can do to get that weight so it's not pulling on this, and as a matter of fact, I might make sure these are tightened as well. And then I always run my hand underneath just to double check that we're not doing anything wacky under there. Now we're ready to stitch it. now's the part where we hold our breath and pray that nothing wacky happened while it was embroidering. Looks good. Nothing sticking to the back there, so that's always a good sign. Let me take it over and show you how you take this off. Okay, the only step left is unhooping, and then this just rips right off. Now, it's called water-soluble stabilizer, so if there is some left, you can soak it in water. I don't love to do that. It leaves the towel kind of crunchy. So I just take my time and do my best. Similar to the, what am I trying to say? Sticky stabilizer, you do run the risk of, what's the word I'm looking for? Snagging your loops if you aren't careful. So, sorry, I'm trying to multitask and I can't get my words out. So you can take some tweezers. It's kind of a nice idea, but especially for a simple big name like this, no biggie, just to kind of use your fingernail to get it away from the side and then pull it off. And then same for the back. The back just rips off. Again, this is why you use tearaway and not cutaway, because you don't want any of that on the back. If it's a close friend, I might just tell him like, hey, I did my best about getting everything off, but it'll come off in the wash. This is a repeat customer, but I'll take my time, use tweezers, whatever, to get all of this off and on the front. So now we just have to do one more. All right, they are all done and ready to go. There was just 2 of them. And so now they're ready for customer pickup, and I'm gonna show you how I do that. So I currently, 100% of my business is word of mouth local. Now, I do not support myself with that 100%. I have a full-time job. If you've been around a while, I used to support myself with this amongst other things. But currently I have a regular full-time job. This is just supplemental income. Maybe I'll grow it. I'm considering getting back on Etsy a little bit. I have a terrible history with Etsy, but I don't know, it's worth a shot. So I'm gonna take you on a little field trip and show you how I do porch pickup and drop off. I don't do anything special in terms of packaging. She dropped them off in this Kohl's bag, so I'm just gonna put them back in the Kohl's bag. But let me take you down and show you my porch. That's something you think you're never gonna say to somebody, but here we go. Okay, we're out on my front porch. There's my front door, cute, some fake flowers, made that on my laser. Anyway, I bought this on Amazon a couple years ago, and it's been a total game changer. Let me see if I can back up. So used to, people would put their stuff like right there, and it was fine. This is covered. Sorry, are those wasps? Maybe. This is covered. Let's see if you can go up there and see all the way up. So it's not like things would get rained on or anything, but this just feels a little more secure to me. I got this on Amazon. I'll see if I can find it and link it below. Do not judge me for what's on top. We've got a dead plant, a frog. There were also plants in there that died. So when people text me or they call me, well, nobody calls me, but if they text or email and want to come drop something off, I just tell them about the gray cabinet on the porch. And then now that these are done, I will put them in here and I will text her and tell them they're ready for pickup. Easy breezy. Most people pay me with Venmo. They can certainly put cash in there if they want. I live in a pretty safe area, so I'm not too worried about it. But I will go text her real quick. All right, I texted her for pickup, and that's the end of it. I will see you guys later. Thanks for hanging out.